Okay. So we're going to start with a centering exercise, which we always do. But this one's going to be a little bit more active because I want to capture a feeling that we're kind of going to use a bit later in the session. So I'm going to ask you to stand up. And really all I want you to do is start moving your hips from side to side. And notice what happens to your arms when you do that. The power that you can generate by moving from your center from side to side. And now as you do this, I want you to put a bit of intention into the movement so that you're sending some feeling out of your hands as you do this. And maybe you'll go 2 ways. So it's going to go 1, and then you're going to stop, and then you're going to go a bit further with the intention. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Okay. And now, having moved the center from sort of twisting motion, we're going to drop it. So we're going to be doing this. We're going to be coming down like this. And as you do it, I want you to keep your alignment. So I don't want you to have to do this. That's wrong. I want you to go down as far as you can, as if you were riding a horse, effectively. Horsemen usually keep very straight backs. And as you're doing that, you're going to let your hands fall to your side and rise up with your body. But as you're doing it, focus on what's going on in your center. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now we're going to test you because one hand's going to go backwards and one hand's going to go forwards as we do this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now the other hand's going to go forward and the other one's going to go back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's repeat the whole sequence. So going to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, up and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. On the way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now backwards and forwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The last one's annoying, isn't it? Not so easy. You're feeling a little bit lively, which is what I want, really. We're going to just do a little bit with this feeling of down. So find a side wall or something that you can rest your hands on. I can't face you as I'm doing this, but I'm literally just going to walk away from the wall. And I want to get used to the idea of gravity letting my arms drop. I'm not going to do any more than that. Okay, so once you've mastered that, we'll move on to the next really complex step. We just stick our hands in the air, relax our wrists, and just let them fall, and then let them travel back up. So if any of you were great skippers when you were younger, or even now, this is the feeling of skipping, letting your gravity take your arms down and the momentum bringing it back up. And I want you to just pay attention to how easy this is. There's no muscle work. There's a nice flow to it. And that should kind of get them fall outwards now, as opposed to forwards. You're going the other way around. Now, relax a bit more. Just let them fall. So, and fall. And fall. Like they're resting on a ledge. The ledge is pulled away. So your arms just fall. Yeah, that looks good, Joe. So let me just come back and just see how you guys are feeling with this. It should be feeling nice and easy. Is it feeling nice and easy? Yeah. Okay. Is there a good sense of flow with it? Great. Okay. Does this remind you of what we're aiming for when we're practicing Aikido? I.e., what we want is to be able to do technique with complete ease, no muscle power, and plenty of flow. So the feeling that you're getting now, you need to capture that. And when you're working with somebody else, that's the feeling that you're looking to replicate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
If you're trying to push through, even now, I try and push through and I engage the muscle, it's just a horrible feeling. I'm using up loads more energy and I know I'm far less efficient. And that push elicits a push back, whereas a fall kind of engages you with the other person in a way that a push or pull using muscle power does not. Okay, so Koichi Toi had 4 major rules for getting the best out of your body. He said, keep 1 point. We could spend an age interpreting what that actually means. So to the average Westerner, keep 1 point doesn't mean much. He said, relax completely. Yeah, that one's relatively simple, but actually you could completely misinterpret it. There's kind of the floppy dead in front of the settee relaxation, or there's the engaged relaxation you have when you're in a good party with friends. He said, keep weight underside, which is the one we're going to play with, or have a light posture, neither of which really work for me. I don't think they're terribly understandable at first sight. And the last one was extend ki. Well, again, unless you've trained in Aikido, and if you said that to a person on the street, they would not have a clue what you're talking about. So we're going to, I think the thing is that in the West, what we do is we take the words that are spoken in Japanese, we translate them literally, and we work with that rather than trying to put them into a meaningful form for a Westerner. So keeping weight underside is really just working with gravity. It's the exercise we've just been practicing. Does that make sense? Yes?
Yes.
So in other words, if you don't try and fight nature, you're usually going to be a lot stronger than if you're battling against it. And nearly all our techniques involve a strong element of down. In fact, all the throws do, if you think about it. We never throw anyone with a view to trying to keep them up in the air, do we? We always want them to go to the ground in the end. So I've got a belt. You don't have to have one, but it's kind of a useful aid. Okay. So if I were doing Nikio, the belt's grab my wrist via the belt that it is. I would cover it. I would go in front of them and I would just drop down. It's exactly the same feeling that we've been playing with. And you may have noticed there that just that light drop pulled the chair over. I didn't use any strength at all, where if I use strength, there's no engagement with the chair at all. But this takes the tension and actually it drops the chair. So if you're doing it to yourself without a belt, it would be the same feeling we've been practicing before. It would be just letting your hands fall. So Renal, let them fall all the way to your side. Yeah, that's better. cover, and down. If you want to get technical with Nikio, as you come up, you'll hit the other person's wrist. Now, a lot of people do that. What direction is my hand traveling in at this point in time?
Forward.
Is it?
At least how it looks from...
Think about it. It's actually backwards. I'm trying to get out of the way to make space to do the throw, aren't I?
Okay.
And if I do that, and my partner's being a good uke, they're just going to come through me at that point in time. So actually what I need to do is I need to circle my wrist. I need to keep it straight and circle, keeping my connection. This little circle, honestly, it's one of the most important things in Nikio. It's that last 1% that takes your partner's arm from being straight to this dog leg that we like to see when we're working on it. And when I dropped, I specifically dropped on my center line. Did you notice that? Yeah, so go outside your body and drop down and see how weird that feels on your shoulders. You can try the other side. That feels weird. Really, this middle line is where it feels really easy. And we've said this before, but in all our techniques, we want to be working on this center line. It doesn't just stop at my torso, it goes all the way to the ground and through to the center of the earth and up as far as I can imagine into the heavens. I want to be working on that line. So I'm getting here and I'm dropping down my center line. I might be stepping off the line or stepping in front of them, but I'm always working on my center line and it's nice and easy. Okay, so if we were doing Kotagayesh, this little finger would hook into the wrist of my partner. The thumb would be up the back of their fingers. It would be like that. You can do this to yourself. Can you see? So the little finger here is in the crease of my wrist. The thumb is at the back. We'll have a little experiment here. Can you open your hand to straight with this grip? I can't. Okay, this time, you're going to put all 4 fingers below the wrist and the thumb up the back. Can you open your hand easily? Yes? 3 fingers easily. 2 fingers. Not quite so easy, but I can still do it. Just the 1 little finger. This is the only one I can't break. So I've talked about in previous weeks, making sure you don't do this and grab, because if you do that, your chance of the little finger being in the crease of the wrist is, well, 1 in 4, probably less than that. You probably hit somewhere higher up the arm. So you want to be gliding down and catching the wrist here. And then you'll always get the little finger in the crease, and you'll always be working with their energy and continuing their flow forwards. So little finger, crease of the wrist, thumb up the back, and then exactly the same principle. Just let it fall. Just with gravity. So imagine I've got my partner's arm. Okay, and I've got the Kotagayesh on. They're over there in front of it, connected to the arm, surprisingly enough. There's a distance between us. I'm safe at this point. If I drop it down, they're going to be able to get closer, aren't they? And they're going to be able to hit me. But also, as I drop it down, they are going to end up in this position. And so what looks like a dumb thing to do, which is why everybody tries to do the Kotagayesh out here somewhere and use strength, is actually the smart thing to do. Let them come in. We're supposed to harmonize with our partner. They're trying to come in to hit you. Let them try. But because you've got the wrist, what will happen is that they will fall down in front of you. Does that make sense? Any questions, objections,
discussion points there?
Good observation.
Good. Okay. That's good enough. I can work with that. All right. So again, thinking of another technique. Okay. I'm not going to do the whole of it, but I'm just thinking about the end part of Shianagi. What's the feeling we want? Do we want to pull hard, or do we just want to use the weight of our arms? Again, we just want to use the weight of our arms, and we want to have this nice light feeling. We're going to be looking down their back. So this is my partner. What I don't want to be is stationed here, because that hand can hit me. Okay, I want to be here. I don't know how much of the chair you can see, but does that make sense to you? This is their arm. I've got hold of this arm. I want to protect myself from this arm. Here, I'm not. You'll see a lot of people do Shianagi here, and for a moment, you might get them down, but you might also get hit. And if they had a knife, that could be serious. So perhaps to be avoided. Okay. Again, using the chair as a point, you will see a lot of people step with this inside leg to do the circle round. What's the problem with that?
On your back on them.
Yeah, you are opening up your back, aren't you, Andrew? You're opening your back up to them, and you're losing connection with them.
And you lose strength as well.
There's no gap. All of a sudden, there's a gap with my partner. It's very difficult to connect with my partner doing this, as well as being martially unsound. So actually, the center of us, me and my humble partner here, is the middle point. But the center of the move is here. And I'm going to circle around that point to get to the end. So not only is it quicker, it maintains my connection with my partner, and it keeps me safe. So you might not have a chair, but if you have, what we're going to do is we're going to step with the outside leg to the back, so you're around the back, and then let your hands fall. You know that feeling that we had at the start of the class when we were doing all these exercises. So recapture that. Step with the outside leg and down. Should be nice and easy. There should be no sense of pull on your partner. We can't replicate that directly here, now. It is this feeling we're looking for. The other
Hey,
hint.
Quentin,
Yes, Patrick.
have you noticed also when you just let the hands drop, do you notice with your partner that it kills their feet from kicking?
No, I hadn't noticed that, but it's a reasonable observation. Yes.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
You're going to be taking their shoulders and head backwards. It makes it very difficult for them to kick you. Okay, so the other thing about turning from your circle here is it's really small. Look at the distance this person has to travel around to catch you up. And the fact of the matter is that they reach a point where their balance goes long before they catch you. So you don't actually have to drop down, you merely follow their body down. But if you're doing this from static, you have to work a little harder. Okay, so here's the back of the chair. And lots of people will go in this direction, slightly diagonally behind the person. Is that down? Is that working with gravity? No, it's not, is it?
Yeah.
That's us interfering with gravity. And if we have a really good uke, you'd be surprised how many people are able to follow that and maybe make life a bit more difficult for you. Or just stop you just because it doesn't feel right. You know, it's easy to stop that. So when you drop here, you have to drop straight down in front of you. But you've got to do just a bit more than that. you've got to imagine there's a block of energy that's dropping down, not only in front of you, but it's linked to them and it's going straight through the center of their heads to the floor. It's not you doing this to them. This is us working together. You have to have created the us. That getting right next to your partner is part of that process, and you never want to lose it throughout the technique. So on the final bit, you still are staying connected to your partner in your head, and you're working on their center line. And you can have a little bit of fun with this. You can, when you've got a partner to practice with, you can imagine just really slowly dropping down. You'll be amazed how effective this is, using no strength at all, and how it works. Any questions on that? Okay, cool. So, Yonkyo, where do we want them to go? Down to the ground. Thank you, Cindy. I knew someone was paying attention. Okay, so this is my partner's arm. Okay, typically, what you see on Yonkyo is people doing this, going forward. And that's kind of okay. But what you're doing is, if you want to take them to the ground, you're sending your energy forwards, or like as not you are. So if I'm a good uke, what happens when somebody drops their arm in that motion? I go forwards. So they don't actually take me down. So if I want to go down, I go down. And there's nothing to feel here until your wrist turns over. And then when they try to stand up, they catch the nerve. You don't. And then all you do is walk forward, keeping that feeling of down, right? So I think of my Aikido journey, and I remember a particular session where I was working with this powerhouse of a Scotsman. He was a third dan at the time, but really, really dynamic. And he did Yonkyo on me, and I swear I felt it for about a week. It was so powerful. And he said, well, never mind, it's really good for your breathing. So I felt really good about that. At least my breathing was sorted, but my wrist was so sore. And I think trying to devise a way in which you can do Yonkyo without inflicting pain was a challenge for a long time. So I don't want to be the one that inflicts the pain. I want the person trying to attack me to inflict their own pain if they decide to carry on with the attack. Yeah. So literally, I just drop my elbow on my hand, and then you've got this position over their wrist. Can you see? I'm going to be like that, but it's going to be right at the bottom of my arm. And that usually takes the tension out of the partner. And what happens to them is they end up in this position, or out here somewhere. Okay. I would say they're out of balance. Does that seem fair enough? So if they try to stand up, what they do is they hit the Yonkyo. They decide that that's a really bad idea. So what tends to happen is they're already overbalancing. They really want to go down, and then you just follow them. So for the dog walkers among you, Joe, that's all you do. It's like taking the dog for a walk at this point. You think that you walk forward with your partner to maintain the connection. Okay. If you think forward as you walk forward, they will be like the dog. They'll go like that. They won't go down to the ground. You have to put your mind on the floor in order to take them down. Okay. Any questions so far?
I was just going to comment.
Yeah.
It's a wrist rotation as well.
Yes, but not intentionally. It's
No,
just
the wrist rotates as the arm drops.
I'm shaking hands now, so my wrist is pointing forward. But if I drop it to the floor, I just have to bring it up. You'll see that I've got this sort of stirrup shape, like a pitchfork. and it's going down to the ground now. So instead of going forward, my energy is now going down to the ground. So I don't actually, for this one, I don't actually, I don't do any of this or that or this. I literally just let it drop to my side. Now, and for me, I don't know if you can see, I can't, not very well. Yes, you can now. I like a very small gap between my thumb and their wrist, because I want to get this bony bit in a position over that nerve. So when they come up, they feel it more. I'm just going to add a rider here. Whatever technique I ever show you, there are always times where it won't work. You will meet monsters who have no nerves or feelings at all, and it just doesn't seem to work on them. But for the vast majority of human beings, this is quite effective. So if it doesn't work, you better adjust your technique and do something different. Okay, so we've looked at down in Kotogaesh. We've looked at down from Nikio, Yonkyo, Shianagi. What have we got left? How about Kokanagi? So I'm going to imagine that they come Manetsky for me here. Okay, I clearly don't want to be there, so I spin off the line. This hand will now drape on their shoulder, and this one, this is their arm. You have to imagine I've got it on the shoulder. I've got to hold the belt up. This one goes to the elbow joint here. And when you drop it here, very often people just fall straight to the ground actually. But if they've got good center, it's enough to take them out, and then they bounce back up and you ride it. And that's when you do the throw. You can do a riminagi from here. So a down creates an up, which creates another down. And the feeling is down. It's like the feeling we did at the beginning of this, dropping the hand down, but you just happen to be riding on top of the arm.
Quentin, which technique is this? I didn't listen to the name actually.
I was looking at Manetsky, and it would be in a riminagi.
Okay.
Yeah. If they fall straight down, well, then it would be a kokanagi. But if they actually ride up, then you have to go into a riminagi. So this is their arm. I've got the hand on the shoulder, but you just have to imagine that, because I have to hold the belt up. This comes to the elbow. They buckle down, they ride up, and then you can go over the top whilst turning your hips. Or you can come to the fingers and drop them. You can drop down there as well. You get more down then sometimes, and that can work very well as well. Okay, what have we got left? We've got Sankyo. Oh, Sankyo. Where does the down come in the Sankyo technique? Right at the end is the simple answer. It always does. Okay, we do a warming up exercise. I'm sure a lot of you will do this. So in Ki Aikido, we do it this way. There's a twist on the wrist here. Okay, and that doesn't look very like Sankyo, but it's Sankyo wrist grip. And I think the logic for doing it this way is that I want my shoulders to be relaxed. And I'm doing a warm-up exercise, so I'm trying to relax my way into the lesson. Whereas sticking my shoulder up like that and doing it this way, there's loads of tension here. But it looks more like the Sankyo shape, doesn't it? Right. For the sake of this exercise, we have to do the Sankyo shape, because this discomfort is the discomfort that your partner is feeling. And then literally hold lightly and just drop down. So don't just allow gravity to work, the weight to take the other hand down. What you could do is you could try pulling the other hand down, and notice how you resist yourself. Completely bonkers, but yes. Whereas if you just hold really lightly, I'm going to actually not even wrap my hands round. It's amazing how you will follow. Would you like to try that? So don't wrap your fingers round, just disconnect from them, but connect to your other hand and drop. So there's a rule here. If you give your partner something to feel, they will react against it. If you don't give them anything to feel, they tend to just follow, especially if your desire is to connect rather than to overwhelm. So we did an exercise a week or two ago where we kind of created this sort of magnetism between our hands. Do you remember? And we found that we could maybe make it attract, or we could make it repel. Well, when we're joining with a partner, we want that attract energy. There's a kind of stickiness between you and it, your partner. That's what you want. So if you your partner moves. If you do this and it's always a good idea to start any exercise that you're doing new, slowly, even at this speed, you'll find that your partner's nose is staring at the floor very quickly. And then, just like the Yonko, just walk forward and you can lead them to the ground. So at this point, their key's dropping out of their hand. That makes sense? As you drop them to the floor, actually it's their shoulder that's the thing that's closest to the floor. So what you do is you extend through the shoulder at that point. Does that make sense?
What do you do to extend through the shoulder? What do you mean exactly?
Okay, we have a Joe. One of the beauties of a Joe is it has two ends. Doesn't it, Patrick? Do you have any difficulty deciding which end you're going to extend key out of? You can extend out of both ends, don't you? So if you treat their arm like a Joe, I can either extend key through the hand or I can extend key up to the shoulder. Yeah. So if I've dropped my hand down, okay, you can't see their shoulder because the point of the Joe is now pointing at the floor. Okay, but that's the lowest thing. So I just extend through this end of the Joe to take them to the floor. Does that make sense?
You don't push though.
I don't.
You're not physically pushing.
I never push.
So that's the problem I have is somehow your energy is doing it. If you're not your physical push, but that extension, that's the part I don't get.
Because they can't collapse into the mat straight away. Their body will travel forwards. So I have to travel forwards with them to keep that down feeling on top of them. That way you won't have to push at all. Okay? If you do this like we were doing at the start of the class, this sort of feeling, they will hit the mat like a ton of bricks. They will go down really, really quickly. So only do that if you're working with somebody who's great at ukemi, because you're going to win them otherwise. They're going to smash chest first into the mat, and it's like being hit by a ton of bricks. It's a bit of a lightning strike. And because there's nothing to feel, it's just you dropping and you're dropping with them. It comes kind of out of the blue. So practice the guiding down and maintaining the feeling as you're doing this slowly. Much harder to keep gravity going slowly than it is just to let go. Okay, so if you can do it slowly, you'll have absolutely no problem doing this at speed. Okay, but again, what line am I working on? My center line. So I'll be facing the partner and I'll be dropping it on my center line when I do this. I won't be dropping out of there. I won't be dropping out of there. I'll always be working here. I was talking to Joe a little earlier today, and I was saying the trouble with Aikido is there are very, very few rules. You know, you have to work on your center line. You have to work with gravity. You have to stay relaxed. You have to stay centered. These are simple ideas, but we make them really, really difficult to put them in operations. Humans are funny like that. And you can be certain that when technique doesn't feel right, you've broken one of those rules. So when you practice slowly and mindfully, you'll know which one of those rules to look at. Because you'll notice maybe that your hands are a bit off center rather than here. You'll notice that your shoulders have come up perhaps a bit. You'll notice that you're trying to muscle power somebody through. And when you're doing that slowly, it's not nearly as effective as when you're really sort of using speed and muscle power. Then you've got, you can maximize your physical strength. But when you do it slowly, you're losing half the power. You're losing that momentum. So it doesn't work as well. Doesn't mean to say you can't make it work, but it just feels awkward. And you know, if you pay attention, that you've just attempted to break them rather than to unify with them.
No,
So when you
I'm an Aikido at the moment.
yes, okay. So yes, you're looking for smoothness within yourself and in connection with your partner. You're looking to work naturally, not only within your own body and what that's designed to do. So, my arms are designed to hang down from my shoulders. I can put them up here, but if I did that all day long, people would think I was bonkers. It's not how they're designed to work. They're designed to sit here, really. Equally, when I walk, I could walk with a sort of 4-foot step stride pattern, but I don't. I probably half that. There are things that your body naturally does and which get the best out of it. I can look over my shoulder without turning my body. I can do that, but it's much harder on the body than if I just turn around and face it. And you'll notice that when you're doing technique, very often, the top of your body is doing one thing and your feet are doing something completely different. They get planted to the floor while the top of the body's turning. Or the top of the body's going forward, but the feet refuse to move. Or the top of the body goes backwards and the feet refuse to move. It's much more efficient if you use them all together. Then you can keep your alignment. You always know when you're uncomfortable. So the next trick then is to say, well, why am I uncomfortable? Oh yeah, it's because I forgot to turn my hips, or I forgot to step forwards or backwards, or whatever it might be. Just pay attention to what's going on. So we're just about on time, so I'm just going to open this up for any questions you might have. If you think about techniques we haven't done tonight, you will find the down. And I can guarantee you that even if the body's traveling forwards, your energy is down. So a classic example of that might be kaitanagi. You're wheeling the arm and the body's flying forwards, but if your energy isn't down, all that happens is they run out of it. At least a good uke does. A diving uke going for diving's sake strikes me as a bit of a pointless exercise.
I assume we're talking about the stone down the never-ending well.
Yes, dropping a pebble into a well is a good image, and a never-ending one is even better. Yeah. The only limitation on your mind is yourself. So the further you can send it, the further your key is going to go. So what's your imagination like? It's a very good skill to cultivate in Aikido. An imaginative, creative mind can do a lot more than one that's stuck in a pattern. And I think one of the many, many things that Aikido teaches us is that being stuck in a pattern is always a mistake. Being able to be flexible and to adapt to the moment is really what we need to be. Which seems like a good place to stop, unless you guys have actually anything else you'd like to add.
No, thank you very much, Quentin.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
just bow out.
Thank you, Sensei.
My pleasure.
No, I don't.
どうもありがとうございました。
Thanks for allowing me to share. This is such a weird medium to operate in. It seems to be more powerful than ever I thought, but I really do welcome feedback. So if you're thinking, what the heck was he talking about there, and you were too shy to share it in public, I would welcome it if you perhaps at least shared it with me in private. And also, if there's things that you would like me to work on, I would be very happy to do that. So I'm open to suggestions. Otherwise, I get to invent it all the time, and
Thank you.
maybe not the best way around. Okay. All righty.
Thank you.